Hey guys.
Kauai is back from her European excursion.
Yeah, I am back.
So everyone can blame her for not having an episode last week.
Yeah, sorry.
Did you have a good time?
Yes, we had a great time. We were in Wales and England, and I went to a bookstore that had I asked him what the oldest book was because it's a used bookstore, and everything looked really old. You weren't allowed to touch things; you had to ask before you can touch any.
He said, 1975.
And and he had a Martin Luther's original 3-volume set from 1570 or something.
Wow!
Yeah,
that's old.
It was for sale for $12,000. And I said, if he wasn't a raving anti-Semite, I might have bought it. And then Baruch fainted, and then we walked out. But yeah, it was very nice. I didn't feel like people in Wales love the Jews, but other than that, it was.
Did you have any incident, or just your feeling?
But there were people are just not friendly. So it's hard, but it's hard to know if they're not friendly because they're like British, or if they're not friendly because they don't like Jews. But I don't know. There were some Gaza signs around. It was weird.
Well, that just
yeah.
So I had a question for you, Rabbi. I was thinking about this when Haile was on her trip. It's a question about the Sabbath. If you're in a place in certain times of the year where it doesn't get dark or it doesn't get light, how do you do the Sabbath?
So you generally go according to the largest city. So let's say you're going to be somewhere in the North Pole, and the largest Jewish city is Norway. I think they have some little town up there. So you go according to their time. Light the candles, take out Shabbos, etc., etc., etc.
Interesting.
That would probably be your best bet to do. Oof. Your better bet would be get out of there for Shabbos.
I was going to say
that's your number one bet. But if you're stuck there, go according to go according to the largest, the nearest Jewish community.
Right.
I forgot what the name of the little town is in Norway, but it's pretty far up north.
That means that basically once a week for a while, you're basically gonna have a fast.
Yeah. Well, we really made a mistake going when we did, because there was a fast day while we were there, the 17th of Tammuz, and in a normal place like here, let's say in California, it starts at 5:00 in the morning, let's say, and ends at 8:30. Is that around the time 8:30? So you can fast till 8:30. In London, the fast started at 1:15 in the morning and ended at 10:30 in the evening. So
that's crazy.
It's a 24-hour fast.
And Shabbos, Shabbos ended at 10:30. It was it's too late. I know. And it's brutal. Also weird because it's like 9:15 at night and it's bright outside. You're like, I really want to go to sleep, but it feels like cheating because it's the middle of the day. So
right.
It's a weird.
It is. It is weird when you get that. A lot of people don't realize on longitudinal lines how much further north England is.
You don't realize
most of America.
Right.
It's much further north.
Yeah.
Seattle was when we had a little bit of that in Seattle because it's right with north and
Seattle's north
and west. So it ended late and it was.
I remember we went to Kauai once and we were there for Shabbos and I lit Shabbos candles, and there is a Chabad in Kauai, but they were not there that week. They were away. And I remember thinking, I'm probably lighting Shabbos candles the last in the world. Like maybe whoever on Kauai. Because that's the furthest west. It's the furthest west island. And so I don't know. I just remember thinking I could be the last person on Earth lighting
some other islands before the date line. Is there no other islands?
I mean, are there Jews there lighting Shabbos candles?
I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question.
Probably. Just let me live with my fantasy that I was the last person lighting Shabbos candles. You should be encouraging as my father. You should be like, yes, you were.
You were. You were the last.
Thank you.
There was on different topics. One thing I wanted to bring up that I thought was so I'm reading an excellent book. It's a book of the history of Israel by Anita Shapira. It's excellent. And I just read the section actually today where she taught a lot of the book is about different philosophies of the early Zionists, and she's talking about how a lot of them were sort of, the labor. It was sort of the labor movement, like Mapai, and how they were kind of borderline sympathetic with communists, but a little bit different. And she has this line in the book, and I laughed out loud when I read this. She said, that one of the big differences that in the Soviet Union, if you broke with the ideology, you were either killed or sent to exile. In Israel, you moved to Tel Aviv.
Oh my God. That's pretty funny.
It was pretty funny. Yeah.
I think our friend Yael would have a big issue with that.
Yeah.
Why?
What do you mean? She's a proud Tel Avivian. That's funny.
I thought you would say something else. If you broke with the ideology, you started your own political party.
Yeah, that's
in
true.
Israel.
It's probably that too.
We always prided ourselves in saying that Israel, unlike the Soviet Union, which has one communist party, we have two. There were two communist party in the Knesset. The Leninist party and the Stalinist party. Yeah. They wouldn't talk to each other because, God forbid,
Well, it was interesting. One of the things that she was writing about, I never really thought about, was the fact that a lot of the labor people were in they were in kibbutzim and moshavs, and how they couldn't really be that harsh with the people in those areas, because if they were, they would just say, all right, forget it, I'm moving to Tel Aviv.
Right.
Yeah. So they kind of had to gently get people to adhere to the program. They couldn't be overly harsh, because
what's her name? Who's the author? What's her name?
Anita Shapira.
I have to read that. Okay.
Yeah, it's very, she's got her bibliography is
actually, instead of me reading it, you'll just tell me what it's about. I think more.
It's very good. It's very good.
Yeah, excellent.
But anyway,
you'll do a TLDR and let me know.
We're gonna go back to a little bit of olden days.
We're going back to an older book.
Olden days.
An older book that was written before Anita Shapira.
Yes. Just
even older than the UK, which in the book
older than UK.
But this is even older.
Yeah. So we're going to pick up where we left off in the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel.
Yeah.
So where we left off was, I'm just looking at my notes here. So the Jews said, we want a king. Samuel met Saul, and God told Samuel, this is the king. And now Saul is officially the king. Right. And so where do you want to, there's a lot happens here. Where do you want to pick up, Rabbi?
So I figured we talk about what happens after he gets anointed. So the key element that seems to have spurred on the Jews for requesting a king was, of course, the fright that they had and the fear of their neighbors. This was obviously a very, very not solid, exactly the opposite. It was fluid.
Right.
I mean, battles were happening all the time, and the Jews were always under threat. They had never really been united as one people, even though we think of them as the Jewish country, but we're talking about more realistically 12 different tribes. Each tribe had to fend for itself, so that warring neighbors could have come in and attacked them. So finally they decided to get this king that's going to unite everybody. And he goes on a number of different military campaigns, who's introduces an interesting fellow by the name of Jonathan, his son. He had a number of children, of course, and Jonathan was his son. And Jonathan seems to be like either his general or is one of his key commanders. One of his key commanders.
He was
and together they go out there and they wage war against their enemies, and pretty much they're successful. They're successful. The first bump in the road that we find is when Samuel tells Saul that, you're going to go down to Gilgal, you're going to wait for me to bring a sacrifice. And Saul is there. He's afraid. They're on the eve of a battle, and the people are actually leaving. And Saul makes a decision. And here's a big decision that he has to make. He has to make sure to win the battle. All of the prayers usually at that time were accompanied with sacrifices. I mean, that's the way you prayed. Would be today, for an analogy, would be your talis and tefillin. In those days, if you wanted to receive a good omen and a good reward and a good answer for your prayers, you brought a sacrifice. So Saul makes a decision. People are leaving. Samuel is not here. He's late. So he decided to bring the sacrifice. Samuel shows up. And he asks him, what do you do? I mean, so he said, well, like instead of taking responsibility and saying, well, the people were leaving, he says, and I wanted to get my answer. And Samuel says, well, you acted foolishly. You should have waited. I told you to wait. And what you were afraid that God was not going to wait the extra few hours, till I got here. God was going to protect you no matter what. And now we see already that there's already a rift between Samuel and Saul. I mean, it begins to have this relationship is frayed. Yeah. And Saul then already says, God probably regrets making you because, there's impetuousness on your part where you don't think things through deliberately and you should have waited for me. And that's, and obedience is an important thing, even when it comes to a king, even when you have to make harsh and hard decisions, you got to think it through. And Ezel Chacham, who's a wise person, he doesn't say this, but he's inferring this. Harayas Hanayl, it's one who sees the result of his and the consequences of his actions. And you didn't wait for me, and that's not good. So
it's
already
interesting that Samuel felt confident enough to rebuke the king like that. I mean, it just says a lot about their relationship. I think that he felt that his religious. Because he was a religious figure, right? And
he's
Saul
the prophet. He's the prophet and the seer.
Right. So it feels like from that interaction that he was a more not senior person.
Samuel was, if you read the story, I mean, you go through it, Samuel was a black and white person.
Right.
I mean, he was dedicated to the service of God, took that job very seriously, and and knew either instinctively or because he was so connected to the Almighty, he had this Ruach HaKodesh,
right.
He had this Holy Spirit rested on him,
he felt comfortable.
That he knew that this is what God wants,
right.
and so he feels very confident because he's the kingmaker,
right?
In a sense,
right.
He's the kingmaker, so he feels confident that to tell this to Saul, to rebuke him, because
and
this
also,
is going to play a part later on.
At this point, Samuel's a very old man, and we all know how people get in their old age.
They're crusty.
they just say what they think. Like there's no filter anymore once you reach a certain age. So
that's it. He's in the 50s.
He's in his 50s.
He's in his 50s.
I thought he was older than that.
No, he's in his 50s. He's going to die at 52.
You're kidding.
Oh, okay. That's why I thought he was older, because he dies
right before his death.
I'm old and I'm hoary and I'm this and that. He says that,
hoary.
Hoary.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was like,
where is your head going?
I can't. I thought to myself, I can't say anything about this word.
Don't you know biblical English?
I do.
That's a very common word.
I know.
It's old and hory.
I forgot.
If you look in there,
I'm sorry.
Okay,
it's not a word we use every day.
No kidding.
Moving on.
It's a word. Right away, everything has to be.
Sorry.
So because of those things that he describes himself by, you think that he's a 90-year-old man, but he's not.
He's young.
He's young.
All
now
right.
we talked about Saul's age last time. You know how old Saul was. You got to figure if you go back, Jonathan has got to be now. I mean, he's an adult. And not only is he an adult, he's probably in the late 20s, I'm assuming, at this point right now. Not more than that. So you got to be like in the late, and he's also in the 50s.
Yeah,
Saul, something like that. Yeah. So he's also not a very old man doing this.
Right.
Saul, of course, regrets this, and he's going to try to be better. Doing this, they go out there, they fight again the battle. Now, where we here in America have a difficult. It's almost impossible for us to really connect where spirituality and physicality kind of co-join. We think of these two ideas really as separate, where materialism is one way, the material, spirituality is a different way. You have render unto Caesar this and render unto God that. That's kind of the common theme here in America. So when you're in shul, you'll wear a yarmulke, you'll put on a talit, you'll pray. But outside of the congregation, really, you don't think about God on a daily basis. But the Bible is not so. The Bible, the people in the Bible believed in this idea that God is a true protector, and that when we need him, he will listen to us. That means our prayers are real. Now, Saul runs into a problem where he's going to need extra protection, and what he does is he calls for a fast. Now, it's counterintuitive when you go to war to fast, because the first thing that a fast does to you is it weakens you.
Yeah.
So why would you call for a fast? But a fast also signifies repentance.
Mhm.
So what you're trying to say is that hey, we have made a mistake. We are going to fast. We are going to feel bad. We are going to petition. We're going to say prayers, and God will forgive us, and he's going to protect us.
Right.
That you can only believe if you see the intersection between materialism and spirituality. So Jonathan doesn't hear it.
Right.
And he goes and he eats. He puts his hand in this jar of honey and he licks the honey. He gets exposed. They say, he's victorious in battle. They're victorious. They win the battle. But then it's made known that Jonathan ate. So what do you do now? The king professed a fast. He said everyone to fast. Jonathan went against the king's edict.
He didn't know, right?
He didn't know.
He didn't know.
But he should have known.
Right.
Not knowing is not an excuse.
Right.
He should have known. So there's a great debate of what to do with Jonathan. And there's even this opinion that they should put him to death for going against the king's decree. But at the end, they don't. At the end, they say, no, Jonathan, because the proof is in the pudding.
Right.
If God was was upset with his eating, he would have lost in the battle. But Jonathan won in the battle. So he lives. He lives, which is good, because he's going to play an important part later on in the development of the dynasty, later on. But that's just here a couple of interesting tidbits along the way that Saul and Jonathan both err, but so far they're surviving. So far it's okay. This whole idea of instituting a king, that institution is surviving. They've done there's a hiccup here and there, but it's okay. It's holding. It's holding. I mean, it's fine. And now, as we've talked about in the previous episode, that going into the land of Israel, there were three main mitzvahs that the Jews had to fulfill. Number one is minui Amalek, appointing a king, which they did. Even though it came about roundabout, maybe not for the right reasons, but nonetheless, it's done. Number two is building a permanent sanctuary, a temple on where God is going to choose. That's going to have to wait. You'll have to wait till peace reigns. Right now, we're not in a peaceful neighborhood, so that's going to have to wait. The third one, which God swore a number of times in the 5 books of Moses, was the eradication of this tribe called Amalek, where Amalek, were these type of people that they called the Belial. They were such terrible people that when the Jews were marching out of Egypt, everyone was afraid of them. Everyone understood that God gives the Jewish people protection. He is the original Iron Dome, literally, but not an Iron Dome like we have in Israel, where you could get, little pieces get through. Here, you had complete protection from the annihilating, from the clouds of glory. Nothing could get through. You had the well, you had the food, everything. But Amalek, who came to fight the Jews with no antagonism. The Jews weren't antagonistic against him.
Right.
I mean, there's no provocation.
Right.
There's no provocation. Came and attacked the Jews, and God swore then that this is my implacable foe. This is a nation that is just out to get me. I mean, and God took it very personal and said that I want eventually this tribe has to be eradicated. Mm-hmm. And that was the third mitzvah. When we will be able to eradicate them, we should do it. The moment has arrived.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Before, other than Amalek, when the Jews would fight wars with other nations, what would they do with them? Like, would they kill the king and then absorb the people
We've
or
had a
move
number
them?
of wars.
I know. What did they do?
It would depend on each war.
Okay.
Depending on each war. I mean, if this was a land where you can extend peace,
Right.
and you want to
Okay, they would live with them.
peace, you live with them. If there was a war, you killed most of them.
Right, you killed them.
You killed them. You
But
killed
this
them.
was different. This was
total
everyone.
eradication.
Right.
Total eradication. And the moment now comes to do this. Now, you have to put this in perspective, because you have to think about this not as an as an American, but just as a human. Where God tells Samuel, okay, go tell Saul to do this. Samuel goes to Saul and says, okay, the moment has come now. You are now the king. You have to. I told you last time, just because you think of yourself as small, you're not small. You're big. Okay, you're the king. You have certain powers that God has given you, and He's trusting in you to do the right thing. Amalek is vulnerable right now. You got to go out there and eradicate them. When I say eradicate them, I'm not talking about just hurting them, wounding them, killing a certain percentage of them. I'm talking about total destruction, like literally go nuclear on them.
Mm-hmm.
If you had an atomic bomb, that's what you would drop on them to get rid of everything of theirs. Don't take anything. Means men, women, children, livestock.
How do we
everything.
justify? I mean, isn't this hard to justify a little bit?
It's for an American to sit there. But don't forget, this was a bad people. So if you think about, because we can understand if someone said to America in 1938,
right,
drop an atomic bomb on Berlin right now.
Right.
You would have said, not you would have said, but people would have said, why?
Right.
He didn't do anything. I know he didn't do anything, but he's about to do something. So I'm telling you, as God, drop an atomic bomb on Berlin. You would have killed, I don't know how many, 300,000 people, let's just say, but you would have saved 50 million.
Right.
I would take that. I mean, so that's the same thing as with Amalek. When God says to you, eradicate them, because I know them.
Yeah.
These are just bad people, and bad things are going to happen from them. You listen.
So let me ask you this question to bring us back to current events. So, right after the October 7th attack, Bibi in a press conference referenced Amalek.
Correct.
He said, "Remember Amalek," something along those lines. And some people now say, "Oh, look." He said, look what the Jews did to Amalek in the Bible. That's what Bibi's calling for Israel to do to Gaza.
Yeah, but he did to Hamas. Bibi was referring to Hamas as Amalek. Right. Wasn't referring to the Palestinian people. He was referring to Hamas as Amalek, and we need to eradicate them. Right. There's no negotiating with them. These are not people that you could sit down. We're now later? How many months already are we into this?
20.
We're coming up on 2 years.
It's almost 2 years.
It's almost 2 years already, and we're still suffering from them.
Right.
So this is exactly what the circumstances were, that Bibi referred to them as Amalek, a tribe that is implacable foe of the Jewish people. They're not willing to make peace with us, and the only way is shviros and zui takanosam. Their fracturing is their repair, meaning the only way for them to salvage some kind of redemption is complete destruction.
Right.
That's it, complete destruction. And this is what he wanted Saul to do.
Right.
Saul went, gathered 200,000 men, from all of Israel, said everybody has to participate. This is a mitzvah. This is not a war of reshus. This is not like a war where we're going to fight because we want to expand the borders. This is an obligatory war, a milchemes mitzvah where everyone has to come, plus another 10,000 warriors.
Do you think the ultra-Orthodox fought in the war? Or?
They had to.
I'm just kidding.
They had to.
Sorry, I'm just kidding.
No, they had to fight. I mean, everybody had to fight. And he went there, and they fought a terrible war against Amalek.
Yeah.
He was victorious, of course, because God was on his side. And he almost finished the job. Almost. But he left one survivor. I mean, he killed the men, he killed the women, and the children, everything, but he left the king. He didn't kill the king, and he left the livestock.
Right.
Okay, now he's done. He feels pretty good about himself. He thinks that he did everything he was supposed to do. He put Agag, who was the king, in a prison. Okay, he held him under guard, and he's great. Who shows up? Samuel. And Samuel comes to him, and he's feeling good, and he says, "Hey, you know what? I did what you wanted me to, and look at this. Give me a high five, fist pump. Everything going well." And Samuel says to him, "What is the? I hear noises. There's bleeding going here. Why is there? He says, "Oh, why? Well, the people wanted to keep the sacrifices, so the best we could bring it for the Lord." Now, let's stop there just for a second. If I say this to you, and I said that Saul's intentions and the people's intentions were good. You had your fattened bulls, good cows, great sheep. Now why just destroy them for nothing? Yeah. I mean, we have an institution called sacrifice. So you know what?
We'll use them.
We're going to use them for sacrificing for the Lord. It would be like kind of like when you win a war and you take the gold and you build a shoal with it.
Right.
It's a nice thing to do. Okay. Samuel says, "What did I say to you? What did I tell you? What did I tell you?" So you know what? Even though your intentions, let's say, were good. Let's just say your intentions were good, but my instructions were very clear to you that no livestock should be. And then he lays down the most, I think that important verse: obedience is better than sacrifices. Okay? Listening to what God says to you and tells you to do is better than any of the sacrifices that you're bringing. And that's where you fall short. And you fell short the last time, and here you fall short again. And now this already you stretched. And by the way, not only have you left livestock alive, I hear that Agag is still alive. Why is he still alive? Well, Saul, maybe king to king, he gave him some professional treatment, what could hurt to allow the king? So Samuel says, "Bring Agag forward." And Agag comes forward, and he sees Samuel, and Samuel is not Saul. So Samuel tells him, "You're killer of women," and he slices him in half.
Wow.
Because the Bible always ends with a few deaths. You're going to end up with a death or two in the Bible.
Can I say something interesting?
But before, just going to, and then Samuel says to Saul, "Okay, you know what? Mess up once in the eyes of God, he could forgive. Mess up twice in the eyes of God, no, that's it. Your kingdom, your reign of royalty is going to be discarded. You're going to be cut off, and we're going to pick
so he loses
else.
the kingship."
And that's the last time Saul ever sees Samuel, right?
That's it.
Yes, really?
Last time. Now he runs after him, and he pleads with him. I made a mistake and all that. He even grabs his coat.
Oh, yeah.
He tears his coat, very symbolic, and he says, "Like my coat is torn, so will your reign be torn as well." And it's over. It's over.
That's kind of sad.
It's over. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to say something about the livestock, if I can, because I read something really interesting about that.
Yeah.
Some of the rabbis give some explanations of why Hashem wanted the livestock to be destroyed. And two of the explanations I heard that were interesting is one, Hashem didn't want anybody to ever say like, "Oh, this livestock came from Amalek. This is why the Jews killed them, because they wanted their loot." So that was one. There was like no way to say that. The only thing people could say is that they destroyed everything because Hashem commanded them to. And Rashi says something really crazy, I think, but I mean, it's Rashi, so I don't mean it in a bad way, but Rashi says that the Amalekites were able to transform. They were magicians who were able to transform into animals. And so when they were running away from war, they would often, they would hide as livestock. They would turn into animals. And that's why they had to kill the animals too, which is just that's an interesting. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I have a tough time with that one. I think the first explanation makes total sense. That makes complete sense. That rationale to me.
Well, I think Rashi
No,
When he was-
it
it's an
depends of
interesting-
what you mean by masquerading. I mean, you know,
In
you could like
Twilight-
blind.
In Twilight, they turn into wolves.
No, there you go.
All I can
Well,
think of
there you
right
go.
now is, did you ever see the movie Top Secret?
Top
Top Secret.
What is that?
It's like an early 80s movie with Val Kilmer. It's a comedy. And
Yeah.
there's a scene where these guys dressed up as a horse, and it's
Yeah.
it's
Well, people have been doing that for ages. People have been masquerading as animals. You know,
Whatever.
like, you know,
I want to believe they were magicians that could turn into animals. Let me believe
well,
it.
magic. If we're talking
Yeah,
about
magic existed.
magic all through the Torah.
Yeah.
You know, like
The
now
Egyptians were magicians.
No,
Yeah.
Bilam was a magician.
Right.
He could fly. He can make other people fly. You know, so
I love it.
black
Anyway.
magic, and magic was a common theme back then.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that they could have masqueraded themselves as animals. But
right.
I just thought it was interesting.
in psychologically, you could think about them, you know, running away and masquerading themselves and hiding. You know, just hiding.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
you could see where Rashi is coming from,
Right.
where, you know, like they're like trying to blend in with other people or whatever,
Right.
you know, something like that. So it's a tragic end, and he becomes a tragic figure,
Right.
Saul,
Mhm.
because here he was, you know, he fought these battles. He was head and shoulders above everybody else, a righteous person, someone just like Moses, where he was minding his own business.
Right.
He wasn't looking for glory. He was actually just looking for some lost donkeys, you know,
Right.
like he was young.
Right.
And he was appointed, taken out of his comfortable setting where, you know, he did whatever he had to do, and probably was a wealthy guy, you know, came from a nice family, you know, and then all of a sudden this is thrust upon him, you know, this incredibly difficult job, because not only is he now the king of the Jews with their whole shtick, you know, of complaining and moaning and groaning and all of that stuff, and complainers, he now also has to fight a series of battles, which is never
Yeah.
a pleasant thing to do.
Right.
I mean, you're gonna lose soldiers. You're gonna, you know, we see what's going on in Israel, you know, with fighting battles, and then he's asked to do the ultimate thing, which is probably very hard for him,
Yeah.
because I find in him a sense of humanity,
Right.
you know, of a person that cares about other people, worries about other people, and now you're asking him to go and indiscriminately just massacre, you know, everything. So he becomes this tragic figure in the Bible, and he loses it because he doesn't live up to expectations.
Well, also,
and it's very hard for the average person not to feel a kinship with him.
yeah.
It's like all of a sudden you're thrust into this job of running Microsoft, let's just say. How would I know how to run Microsoft? I hardly know how to run myself.
Yeah.
You know, running a company with hundreds of thousands of people, and then you're thrown out after a few weeks, and people go, "Oh, tragedy, a tragedy, Perlmutter." You know, like a tragedy. This is not a tragedy. I mean, I wasn't fit to be there in the first place. Why did they bother with, you know, with me? So he becomes this, you know, just he's the poster boy
Yeah.
for like a tragedy, literally a tragedy where you don't live up to your expectations, and you don't fulfill your destiny, and you know, we
haven't even really gotten to the saddest part of his story yet either.
No. We're still.
But there is something I want to ask you about, though, because
Yeah.
there's a concept. I don't know if it's a Hasidic concept, because I'm often confused about where things come from, because I was educated in a Hasidic way.
Right.
But the concept of bittul, which is this idea that you're completely nullified. I guess I know that's a weird word, but you're completely nullified to God's will. Right. And it's
Right.
something that we're supposed to have. We're supposed to be completely, you know, lose any of your own ego, even your own common sense in a way. I don't know. Like, that's something I've struggled with, but you're supposed to have that kind of bittul. And I don't, you know, here, obviously he just doesn't have it. And that's kind of what the story
very hard.
is, you know,
it's extremely
it's really
extremely hard to reach that kind of a level where you're literally egoless. You're literally egoless, that your entire meditation, and you know, when we talk about the importance of, you know, of doing meditation and contemplation and thinking, is all about how nothing you are.
Right.
And it's counterintuitive, because I exist. Don't I exist? But you know, Kabbalah will tell you, not really.
Right.
You don't really exist, because you're kind of like limited in your existence, and
Right.
that's not a true existence. God exists, but you may exist, you may not exist, but you don't feel that way.
Right.
You feel that the entire
You're a
universe,
person, yeah.
revolves around you. So to reach this level of self-nullification where you're going literally against your own better judgment, which Saul thought, I mean, come on, God doesn't, why would he care about a bull?
Yeah.
I mean, he cares if the bull is going to get killed by me on Monday or I bring it on as a sacrifice on Tuesday. I'm killing the bull. I'm doing what he wants me to do. I'm killing him. But you didn't reach this level of just following, that's it.
Yeah.
Ours is not the question why, ours is but to do and die. That's the famous poem, of the Crimean War, where when you're sent to battle, your job is not to think.
It's just the antithesis of like what the Western world is really about, isn't it? I feel like, especially since the Enlightenment, I mean, we're supposed to be all about reason and logic, and
that's why
understanding things for ourselves. And
if you go and you look at Hasidic philosophy and more and more, and you dig deep down, you'll see how critical they were of this concept called, human rationality,
right.
Your own thoughts.
Yeah.
This is like the coldest thing in the world. The Rabbi would write, the leaders would write, when you have this, what we call cold human rationality, because rationalization, I mean, we're talking about, like today in the Torah portion, about the laws of kosher, where your spoon becomes not kosher.
Right.
I mean, think about that for a second. Sit down with an American across a table with a cup of coffee and say, well, hold on 1 second. I got to make sure that my cup is kosher. You got to what? Yeah, my cup could be non-kosher. How could a porcelain cup become non-kosher? And then, no, don't use that spoon because that's a meat spoon. That's a meat spoon. And we only have put dairy spoons in our cup. I mean, how do you rationalize?
Literally just happened to me.
I mean, how do you rationalize
that? In our Airbnb, I was enjoying a coffee in a cup. I shouldn't, Baruch will be mad at me for telling the story, but I made myself a coffee in the morning and using one of the cups that they had there, a mug. And Baruch very kindly pointed out that that's not kosher, because porcelain doesn't absorbs the non-kosher, and so really you can't use it. You can only use a glass.
Now,
and I sat there and I kind of rolled my eyes, to be honest. But I threw away my coffee.
It is amazing to think about the fact that Jews have spent all this time doing this organic chemistry of different metals, different materials, specifically for the reason to understand if these things are kosher or not, or can be kosher.
No, and I'm teaching the class today at the J, and I'm giving over the laws, of kosher dishes, and I see that people are like, and like some of them they knew about it, but they're like shaking their hands. I mean, how do you explain a dish being non-kosher? Right. Well, because you if you take a non-kosher steak and you cooked it and you put it on the dish and the blood seeped through the steak into the dish becomes not kosher. Why? I mean, and the answer is because it's a super rational law. It's a decree, and a decree you don't ask questions on. There comes the self-nullification.
Right,
that's about all about saying, I'm going to do it simply because I was instructed to do it. Not because I understand, not because I appreciate it, not because it's something that I fully grasp, but I'm doing it because this is what God wants me to do. And that's the hard part here in America. Trying to buy this idea, that's what God wants me to. How does God want you to do that? Yeah. I mean, because it says in the Torah. I mean, it says in the Torah, you have to kosher your dishes. And then a secular Jew.
It makes me feel like I know.
And so I'm sorry, just to tie it to what we're talking about. This is where now I believe Saul had a tremendous amount of self-nullification. I think that he did believe he was a God-fearing man, believed in God. He wasn't a scoffer. He didn't, Samuel told him, eradicate everybody. And then he told Jonathan, let the old geezer leave and we'll do what we have to do, okay? The old man's off his rocker anyways, okay? He wasn't that. He was a true believer, and he killed men, women, children, did the best, and thought to himself that he was following God's dictates. You know, he's proud of himself of what he did. So he had that self-nullification. And even with his self-nullification, he came up short.
Right.
So what does that say about the average person?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If Saul can't do it, I feel like.
So thank God.
I mean, it is interesting also when you, especially when you think about, we'll get to in, a couple of weeks, probably some of the things that David does.
Right.
Which I think are almost anybody just on a not on a human level, not necessarily on a religious level, would think that some of the things, one thing in particular that David does is significantly worse and significantly more amoral than what Saul does here.
Right.
And but to your point, it's about
what God
obedience.
Obedience, and that's what it is.
But like, do you relate to that point? I mean, I'm just curious because I think as like Orthodox observant Jews, like I grew up my whole life, that was just what I understood the world is about. But if you were raised like I'm talking to Jay, like if you were raised, not to think like that, how do you relate to that idea?
Well, I mean, I think I can relate to it on a logic. This might sound a little bit odd, but I can relate to it on a logical level in that it's not like the way Rabbi described it, right? If someone comes and says, if I ask that question about why is porcelain, why does it have to be koshered? And if I put a steak on it, why is it no longer, kosher? And if I was getting a sales pitch about it, and someone was trying to explain the logic behind that, I'd probably roll my eyes and say, all right, that's kind of ridiculous. But if someone just like the rabbi just said, look, there are some things that we can't understand. Like these are just things that are dictated because, and we're not necessarily even meant to understand them. They're things we do because they're dictated to us. Yeah. Then it's like, okay, like, if there's no rational explanation for it, I can accept that much more than someone trying to come up with some nonsense rationale for it.
Yeah, that's true.
Right,
that's true.
So I would just think, I agree with what Jay is saying. 2 points here. Number one is it's not only secular Jews that fall short.
Yeah,
we all fall short.
Of course we do.
Everybody falls short because that's the way of human nature. We have a selfish gene that resides inside of us, and that's our common go-to point. Yeah. I mean, a default position is always thinking about what's in it for me. So we all fall short with that. The one thing about the kosher and those kind of rules where they're super rational, where there is no logical explanation, it goes contrary to what our minds, because we always want to be, especially in America, we want to understand why. Yeah. Now I get it that there's going to be some things we don't understand, but we're not used to the American government coming out with a law that says on Tuesday everyone has to wear yellow.
Right.
And we say, why? Because we just decided that. But we're not going to go for that because we don't want to wear yellow on Tuesday. I want to wear brown on Tuesday. Well, that's too bad because to Americans, this idea of I'm not going to eat shellfish because God demanded it of me just is so contrary to what we do. So we try to find rationality behind it. Like the kashrus laws, I would argue, were given to us simply to isolate us. Mm-hmm. That's what God wanted. Simply, he knew we're going to go into a foreign territory. We're going to be involved with other races and other clans and other religions, and we are going to assimilate. We're going to find that, the Canaanites and the Jebusites and the Perizzites and the Assyrians worship idols, and they're successful, and they don't have to go through this rigmarole of listening to 613 commandments. So what does God do? God says, no, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to allow them to commune with other people. How do we commune in the olden days? Through food. Right. So when your neighbor comes to you and says, hey, you know what? We're having a block party on Saturday. It's potluck. So bring your best food. The Jew says, I'm sorry. Right. I can't participate. So I could get that. I appreciate that where God is trying to isolate us. Now, the question is, why does he want to isolate us? That's a separate issue. That's another issue. But that I can understand where, like, wine is, I mean, is why would a bottle
sense.
why would a bottle that is made by a non-Jew, non-kosher, it has exactly the same properties as a kosher bottle of wine. There's no difference whatsoever. You could say the pig is a pig. Okay, I get it. And the bottom feeders are bottom feeders. But wine is wine. I mean, the ingredients are exactly the same. That's the reason. I mean, I don't want you to go there and commune with these people because you're going to learn from them. Next thing you know, you're going to start hanging out with them. Your daughters are going to start dating their sons. Their sons are going to date your daughters. And
the problem is that if you don't follow the commandments because Hashem said so, you end up in circumstances that you are challenged, right? Because if I often say that I do a lot of things because I want to be a part of a certain community. And so in order to fit in, there's norms in order to be part of that community. So I do a lot of things in order to be part of that. So kosher is a great example. I want my kids to be in a certain school. I want their friends to eat at our house. In order for that to happen, my house has to be a certain level of kosher. I have to cover my hair. I have to dress a certain way so that I'm acceptable in the community. But what happens then when you're not near the community and you're alone or you're somewhere else or you don't have any of those, issues, the reasons for following the laws change. And so if you're doing it for literally because Hashem said so, that doesn't matter what your circumstances are. Doesn't matter where you are, who you're with, or what's happening. So it's a little bit easier to follow other,
which by the way, I mean, what you said about making yourself subservient to certain rules to be part of a community.
Yeah.
Everybody does that.
Exactly.
Everybody does that.
Yeah.
So it's different rules and, it's different types of things that we do that don't make any logical sense. If you really think about the things that you do to be part of your community, a lot of those things that we do make no logical sense.
Right.
But we do them to be part of the community.
Yeah.
And what you guys are saying is interesting because there's the old adage, everybody worships something.
Right. Right.
Everybody worships. The atheists are proud to say, no. We're free thinkers and we only follow logic and rationale. And if it doesn't make any sense to us, we discard it. And no. Everybody worships something. They worship science.
Yeah.
I mean, a scientist worships science.
Right.
I mean, there are so many illogical things that happens in science that doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. No. We just don't understand it. Eventually it will make sense. No, it won't. It just doesn't make sense. But you accept it because you have created this paradigm where you feel comfortable in this world. So no matter what happens in this little world of atheism, you're you're good with it. No matter if an atheist will kill 50 million people under the guise of atheism, you're going to you're going to say, that wasn't atheism, it was this, it was that. That's what Christopher Hitchens used to always say. Hitler was religious, Stalin was religious, and everything was religious, like that. So everybody worships. Doesn't matter.
True.
You either worship money. That's the number one thing here in the United States of America. We all, and I would say all, most people worship money because when you invite people to come to a Torah class, who's coming? Nobody. But if I took $100 bills or $10 bills and I started to drop them in the middle of the street, people from everywhere are going to start running towards it. So, and here in California, we worship beauty. We worship it. We spend billions and billions and tens of billions of dollars on how to make ourselves look beautiful, or power, or politics.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Rene Girard?
Yes.
Oh, the name is so familiar.
So he was he was a philosopher.
I feel like Tyler Cowen talks about him a lot.
Yeah, I think Tyler. Yeah. So we should get somebody on to talk about Rene Girard. I think that actually be a really interesting conversation. But one of the concepts he created was this idea of mimesis or mimetic theory, which is that essentially nothing you want in your life, you want because you want it.
Right.
Everything you want because you see someone else has it or does it. That we are just we're just
basically
we're mimics.
So
jealousy is the root of all
It's
of
like
all
in
wants.
our family, we have this thing. I don't know if you even know that. I mean, you know, but my mother will like start making eggs, right? Like just scrambled eggs. All of a sudden, everyone needs to have scrambled eggs. It's not like 5 minutes earlier, I didn't even think about scrambled eggs for a second. I don't even like scrambled eggs that much. But the second I see my mother making scrambled eggs, oh, I must have it. And that is about everything in life. It's just the way it is.
It's
I know.
Think about my favorite example is cars, right? Is okay. So if you spent the difference between I am religious about always having crappy cars because I just refuse to pay a lot for a car. But there are people I know who spend a lot of money on cars.
Yes.
And I've had discussions with some of them and say, okay, what's the difference between your car and my car?
Static.
And now some of the cars now have like on the dash on like the what do you call it? On the
window.
On the windshield. Oh my God.
Yeah,
on the windshield, it has like the phone display and all of this stuff. And it has like cool interior lights. And I say, so you paid like $40,000 more for your car so you could have like these essentially useless features?
Well, my new car has a cooling steering wheel.
Well, that's worth $40,000.
You're right about it.
But you're paying for the symbol on the hood of the car. That's all you're paying for.
It's status. It's a status symbol.
Yeah.
I'm driving a Rolls, and you're not.
Yeah.
And that's so people here in California buy a Ferrari. Why? To go 11 miles an hour on the 405. I mean, this is a car that needs to go 200 miles an hour. That's what it's built for. And you're schlepping along at 11 miles an hour because you know that everyone that's driving by you is looking at you.
Yeah.
This is significance. This is a status symbol. This is why we do things. But what Jay is saying about that theory is so true because, you know, everything is in the Torah.
Yes.
There's nothing that is outside of the Torah. So no matter if a French philosopher thought about it in 1722, you know, somewhere in a hot tub in Marseille, and he wrote 11 books about it, it's in the Torah.
Yes.
He did not come up with any novel idea.
Okay, let's hear. Okay? Where is it
Nothing.
in the Torah?
It's in the Torah, clearly the 10th commandment.
Oh, of course.
The 10th commandment is about coveting.
Right.
Thou shalt not covet. Now think about that for a second. Let's talk about this just for a second. Why would that be in the 10 commandments? I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. Coveting is a part of human nature. Jay just laid it out beautifully. Jealousy is part of human nature. Why would it be in the 10 commandments? 10 commandments are really there for, you know, stealing, murder, you know, like being honest in business, you know, commanding you on actions, you know, like kidnapping, all of these things. Why would coveting be? Because coveting is the first step of decline to eradicating all the other 9 commandments. Because if you don't follow that last commandment and you covet your neighbor's horse, sheep, wife, car, house, whatever it is, you're gone. And that's exactly what he's talking about. You don't go and murder somebody because you love murder. It's because you saw somebody eradicating a problem in their life through murder. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to eradicate. So everything is in the Torah. There's no. It's
crazy how social media just blew that idea up into such a massive way. I mean, I see it with myself. I'll be on Instagram scrolling. Next thing, I'm ordering whatever I saw on Amazon. I didn't even know about it 5 minutes before. You know what I'm saying? But, I saw it. Now I need it because someone else has it. And there it goes.
They've perfected this.
It's really crazy.
Totally perfected it.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get worse and worse and worse with AI. It's going to get so much worse.
Well, I mean, think about why do celebrities get paid millions of dollars to endorse a brand?
Right.
Like what relevance does that have to anything?
Yeah.
It's just people want to be like the celebrities. Like that is the entire thing.
But then there's Jay who couldn't care less about any of that and he ignores all of it.
But you know, coming back to the point we were making about things you do to fit in society. So like tomorrow, I'm meeting with a client and I'm going to wear like a button down shirt and, you know, pants and, you know, I know pants, amazing wearing pants, but,
you're going to play the part,
but I'm not going to be unshaven in a tank top and wear
Yeah.
flip-flops, even though the clothes I wear have nothing to do with the quality of my work at all in any way.
Absolutely.
Right.
But it's just,
Absolutely.
that's just how you act. There's no rational reason for it.
Yeah.
It's just, that's how you act in our society.
Your client has expectations, and
Yeah.
for you to come in, and if you came in with flip-flops, he's thinking to himself, you would disrespect me. Now here I come with a suit and a tie. You're disrespecting me, so you'll probably disrespect my company. So why would I pay
Right.
big money to hire you as a consultant if you don't even have the decency to come looking like a half a mensch?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But this is an
Yeah.
old problem.
Yeah.
This is why we're obsessed with sports in this country.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, we spend hours talking about Tom Brady, who could care less about us.
That's not true. He likes us.
Yeah, he likes us.
If he knew us.
He likes Hialeah specifically.
If
Yeah.
he knew
He
me,
could
he
care
would like me.
less about what we do, what we eat, where we sleep, how we make a living, what our health is.
Yeah.
He could care less about it, and we spend hours analyzing him and talking about him and watching his old videos from 25 years ago. I've seen the Atlanta Super Bowl. I can't tell you how many times I've rewatched it in speed motion.
Yeah.
Not every play. Why? Because somehow I've convinced myself I'm part of that Patriot victory.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I cheered them on. There was something about our cheering. We sent a message to Brady that gave him the
Tell the
ability.
truth. You were crying in your car, davening very hard. You left. He couldn't even stay. He left. You couldn't watch
I
it.
was listening on the freeway. I almost went off the freeway. Literally almost went off the freeway when they scored a touchdown. I didn't know what to say. No, but why? Why? It makes that doesn't make any rational sense.
Yeah.
If you sat down and you said to people, you told people, I love Tom. You love Tom Brady. What are you, nuts or something? It doesn't. I mean, if he knew you and he loved you back, it makes sense. But he doesn't know you. Why would you love Tom Brady? But
so
that's
true.
that's what it is. It's that part of. I wish that some of his gold dust rubs off on me and his good luck, rubs off on me. And we even love people that are bad people.
Yeah.
The horrible people. We idolize them, especially celebrities. Celebrities.
Well, look at this. What's his name? Mangione.
Ugh. Right.
That guy.
Who shot the guy, the United Healthcare
Who
guy.
shot the
Hero.
He becomes a hero.
Yeah.
Hero.
I
But
mean,
it's disgusting. But also, you just said especially celebrities. But the truth is that we do that in real life also. If you look at the sociology of especially among women, who the sort of what's the word, like pack leaders are, when you're a teenager in high school or even as a grown adult woman, it's often the worst person, right? Like the meanest, most selfish, self-absorbed person often becomes the one that everyone's trying to emulate and everybody's trying to
because she has confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
And she doesn't care.
Exactly.
And she'll roll over you. And we look at that as a source of strength.
Yeah.
You want to have that confidence. You want to be the one that's going to be the bully rather than the bullied.
Right. Exactly.
No.
Well, that went far off from Saul, but it was good.
do we want to keep going or do we want to?
No, I really have to go. I'm
Okay.
I'm giving another class tonight. So
you have a class tonight?
I got to go.
Okay. All right, we'll pick up.
We'll pick up next time.
Next time we get into Saul's melancholy and what he does to raise his spirits. He calls for, like many of us, music.
Yeah.
Music picks up his spirit. And we'll find out what happens then. Who's the musician?
Yes.
It's going to be unknown. A masked musician. Who shows up at the palace? Is it Cardi B? It, what's the other one?
Know Cardi B is?
Stallion the Thinker or something? That's the funniest name I saw that was of the singer. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Stallion.
Oh, Megan the Stallion.
Megan the Stallion.
Oh my God.
Megan the Stallion. Who's it going to be showing up at the?
I think it's going to be Robert Zimmerman. I think is going to be showing up.
Yeah.
Who's he? You know what? He didn't go anywhere. His career really went downhill terribly.
Yep. Yeah.
What a voice. He'll never make it with that voice and his stupid lyrics that no one can understand.
He's the best.
Is he the best?
I mean, in a way.
I think he's the best songwriter, but I don't think he's like the best singer.
No.
He's the best songwriter.
We should say, that Ozzy Osbourne died, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He was a good guy.
He was something else.
Yeah.
you talk about someone that didn't care,
Yeah.
like, but the truth of the matter is, he said about himself that when he was a kid, he was the most terrified kid.
Really?
He would be afraid of everything, he would be afraid of. And when he learned that he was able to, communicate and get this reaction from people through his talent and his music, that kind of brought him out of his shell. And he said, you know how I'm going to get over my fear by doing this. And that's,
we have them to thank in a way for reality TV. They were one of the first reality shows.
Yeah. She's Jewish.
The Osbournes.
She's Jewish.
Very pro-Israel.
Yeah, she's Jewish.
Yeah, I think her maiden name is Levy.
Yeah.
He's not Jewish.
No.
He with his big cross
but she's a big Zionist. So
yes,
we like Sharon.
I don't know. Are the kids? I wonder if they consider themselves Jewish.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, he died.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Till next time.
Next week.
All right, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.